All right, so let's talk about this website. I love this website. I've been using it for many years, and I started using it way before I had my YouTube channel. Since I've had my YouTube channel, I've learned a whole lot more about what this website will do. I've used this website for a lot of my videos, and it's just a great visual guide as I'm going to show you right now. So we're going to start out with this first section, and this is the guitar chords section. So I'm going to click on guitar chords. And once again, down here, we've got all these different buttons and options. Well, obviously, I could click here and get a C, and then this would be a major. So this is telling me I've got a C major chord. I could do a C seventh chord right there, a C diminished seventh. If I wanted to do a C sus2 chord and take a look at that, whatever it is I want, I can pick the chord I'm looking for. And these numbers give you options of where you can play that chord. So what this section here will do for you, using these numbers, let's take, instead of a C chord, let's take a D major chord. And so if we think of the caged shapes, caged system, all those shapes go in order, C, A, G, E, D, and then back to C, and it keeps on going. So you could look at this from a standpoint of finding where the C shape is, which is right here for that D major chord. So now we can just simply go in order. There's your C shape of the D major chord. There's your A shape. There's your G shape. There's your E shape. And then you're back to your D shape. And you could do that with any chord. If we want to do something like a G major, and let's start with the C shape of a G major, which is a little bit different because we're starting way up here on the fretboard. Your G note you're starting with right there is on the 10th fret. Once again, starting with your G major chord, here is your C shape, there's your A shape, there's your G shape, there's your E shape, there's your D shape, and then you're back to the C shape. But again, this chord section right here will do all kinds of stuff. You can look for any kind of chords you want, especially if there's a chord that you're trying to figure out, like for instance a B diminished seventh. I wouldn't have a clue where that is unless I went and tried to figure it out. So I could go in there and put in B diminished seventh, and now I can see, okay, well cool, there's the chord. And notice the X's right there are the notes that you do not play. So this just kind of gives you some examples of this B diminished seventh chord. Maybe I would want to play it there. I don't know. So real quickly, you can just pick a chord and visualize it in different positions or different shapes on the fretboard. The next thing we're going to do is go to this chord progressions section, and it kind of works like the chords section, but it gives you a few more options. So in this, we're just going to use the C, and we're going to say major triads, which basically this is showing you the C major key, or all of the chords that are in the C major key, or notes in the C major scale. So every major key is going to have a major scale, which is 7 notes. Within those 7 notes, each note is basically a scale degree. So there's going to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Your 1, your 4, and your 5 are all going to be major chords. Your 2, 3, and 6 are going to be your minor chords. Now your 7 is going to be a diminished chord. We're not going to talk a whole lot about the 7 in this tutorial. So take this key of C major. C major is your 1, like we talked about. F major would be your 4, would be your major chord. G major would be your 5. So there again is your 1, 4, 5, your major chords. So your minor chords are going to be your D minor, which is your 2, E minor, which is your 3, and your A minor, which is your 6. So in a nutshell, why this is so important is this is a quick way of learning all of your diatonic chords within a major key. That's really important to know because let's say you've got a chord progression that's in the key of C. Your basic simple chord progression, let's say going from the 1 to the 6 to the 4 to the 5, back to the 1. If you play that on your guitar right now, you can play that in any key. You're going to recognize that chord progression, and there's tons of songs that would use that chord progression. So if I want to go to the key of D major, then bang, I know that 1 is my D major, 2 is my E minor, 3 is my F sharp minor, and so forth, so on. If I wanted to be in the key of G, real quickly, I know my 1, my 2, my 3 chord, my 4 chord, my 5 chord, my 6 chord. So this whole section right here is really helpful in a lot of different ways. Okay, so now we're moving into the guitar scales section. So here we are, guitar scales. Now with this section, obviously you could pick any scale you want. If you want to know what a C harmonic minor scale looks like, then these are all the notes of a C harmonic minor scale. Okay, but it's showing you all the notes on the fretboard. Click on vertical right there. Now it's just showing you that scale in different positions. Now we're not going to talk too much about this scale pattern right now, but if I was doing that scale pattern, I would start with this C on the 8th fret, and I would do something kind of like that. But this is giving you a visual, and it's showing you different positions that you could play this scale on the fretboard. So in the chord section, we talked about the major keys. Now we're talking about the major scale that goes along with those major keys. So where we're at now is the C major, but we're going to also call that the C Ionian mode scale pattern. Notice the notes stayed the same. So the way the pentatonic scales work is they're based on your positions. This is position 1 of the A minor pentatonic scale, but if I want to go up, and now here's my position 2, now here's my position 3, you should start recognizing these patterns. So A major pentatonic scale, going to go back here, and now we're going to move this down to here, and that would look like an F sharp minor pentatonic scale. Only thing A is your root note. So your 5th position of an A major pentatonic scale is the exact same notes as the 1st position of an F sharp minor pentatonic scale. So that's how you start understanding these relationships, and that's how you really start visualizing this stuff on the fretboard. You're only memorizing 5 patterns. You only got to learn to hear and visualize 5 patterns on the fretboard, but you start to learn how to connect those patterns based on whether you're using a minor pentatonic scale or a major pentatonic scale. The next scale we're going to go to is the pentatonic blues scale, which goes hand in hand with everything we're talking about. So let's go to the A pentatonic blues scale, and let's just simply break this down really quickly. So once again, this A pentatonic blues scale is identical to the A pentatonic minor scale with the exception of this one note that we're adding, and that's going to be that D sharp, which is the blues note, or you could call it the flat 5 note. Now you can do the same thing and start working through your positions. You may want to play maybe like this. You may want to play it like that. You can do whatever you want to. Now you're starting to play up and down the fretboard, all the different positions, and you're just learning how to play by ear. You may not have every note on the fretboard memorized for this scale pattern, but you can memorize those 5 positions and base it on that. And the way that works again is starting with your pentatonic minor scale and just working your positions. I'm going to go ahead and just show you a different way to look at this. And I'm going to tell you what I did whenever I first started learning how to play lead guitar, way back before the internet and way back before YouTube or any of that. I didn't know any mode scale patterns. I didn't know anything except for my basic chords, open chords, bar chords. I knew my minor pentatonic scale, knew my blues scale. I knew things like that. So what I would do is on paper, I would draw out this fretboard. I would build all my frets and I would make, on paper, I would make it look just like this right here. And so once I had this, then I would start trying to figure out, okay, well, what scale am I teaching or what scale am I trying to learn? So what I would do is figure out the notes to that scale, which in this case right here is A, C, D, E, G, and then back to A. So all I got to do is just on the whole fretboard, just draw out where all the notes are. So I start with the 6th string and say, okay, well, I got the E, I got my G, I got my A, I got my C, I got my D, my E, my G, my A, my C. Okay, on the 5th string, start with my A, C, D, E, G, A, so forth, so on, until I've got all this drawn out just exactly like you see right now. And then what I would do would be start building it into sections in my mind, or just visualizing it, or whatever I got to do. I would basically start sectioning out the positions that I want to play in. So I'd say, okay, so for this main position, I already know this one position right here, because this is kind of like the home base of your A minor pentatonic scale. I already know all of this. So this scale I got down. I got it memorized. You, as a new lead guitar player, maybe you hadn't played that long, or maybe you've been playing for years, it doesn't matter. This probably was one of the first scales you ever learned. So I know that one. I got that one down. Okay, well, great. But now what I want to do is, how do I play up and down the fretboard? How do I take these notes and start figuring out how to connect these notes and these patterns, and be able to play all this stuff and come up with some cool sequences and all this kind of stuff where I can play the whole fretboard. I don't want to be stuck just from the 5th fret to the 8th fret, and that's all I know how to play, and I'm just dead in the water. What I want to do is start breaking it into sections. So, okay, well, let's figure out section 2. So I'm going to say, okay, well, section 2, I could start probably somewhere in this position here, something like that. Well, if you notice, now that I know all my pentatonic major positions, or pentatonic positions, I know that that's my C major pentatonic scale position. I know it. So I've got that memorized in my mind now. Now, back then, when I first started playing guitar, or first few years, I had no idea what that was. But what I knew how to do was figure out how to play this and connect it to this other pattern. Say, well, if I can do that from here to the 8th fret, then I could extend it to here. Well, if I can extend it to there, then I can figure out a way to extend it, to this pattern. And then I could just keep on going. So basically, I could go in there and figure out these different patterns until I've got it down. So now what I want to do is I want to go to this last section, which is scale identifier. Let's say you went onto YouTube, you found a video where it showed you a scale, but it didn't tell you all of the notes of the scale. It just kind of showed you a pattern. So let's say all that video told you was, we're going to start with our index finger on the 6th string of the 10th fret, and now we're just going to build the scale. So I'm going to go 10th fret, 11th fret, 13th fret. On the 5th string, I'm going to say 10, 12, 13. On the D string, 10, 12, 13. On the G string, I'm going to do 10 and 12. On the B string, I'm going to say 10, 11, 13. Then on our first string, I'm going back to the 10, 11, and the 13. Okay, so why this part right here is really cool is because you can see what that scale pattern is, and you don't have to see all of the different positions or whatever, but down here, it's going to show you everything that we talked about before. It's going to give you that visualization of the key that you're in. So if you're playing this scale pattern and you don't know what it is, well, this is telling you it's a D Phrygian mode scale pattern. This is telling you it's also a C Dorian. Of course, here's your C, so you'd have to start with the C would be your root note if you were doing the C Dorian scale. But we're starting with the D note. Doesn't matter, it's still the exact same notes. That's the whole key to understand. It could be a G Aeolian scale pattern, which is your G natural minor. We talked about that a while ago, which the G Aeolian would be the same thing as if you were playing the A sharp major, which would show you right there, A sharp major, or we can call it A sharp Ionian. So A sharp major is your 1, your 2 is your C Dorian, your 3 is your D Phrygian, your 5 is your F Mixolydian, your 6 is your G natural minor or G Aeolian. And then of course you're back to your 1. So hey, I hope this has really been helpful for you. I totally love this site, and I can't say enough how much I use this site on a personal level or from a teaching standpoint in order to use it just to visualize chords and scales and scale patterns, mode scale patterns, pentatonic scales, any kind of scales, any kind of chords, whatever it is. And I really recommend that you do the exact same thing. Take out your guitar, start playing with all these different sections and play around with different chord progressions, different types of scales. Learn those 5 positions, which I'm going to leave videos for you in the description. But I've got videos about the 5 mode scale patterns that I use. And once you memorize those 5 scale patterns, you can play in any key up and down the fretboard without a question of a doubt. Everything connects and everything starts to kind of come into play once you know those 5 patterns. Within those 5 patterns, you've got your 5 pentatonic positions, whether you're talking about the pentatonic minor or the pentatonic major. There's still only 5 pentatonic positions. So thanks for watching. Keep rocking, and I'll see you in the next video.